Lord, in a world where I heard 3 inappropriate songs and DJs talking about terrible things on the way in and Dr. Seuss is outlawed, Lord, I ask that you give people wisdom, Lord. I ask that you give the people in this room the opportunity to continue to be lights in your world. Lord, I thank you again for this beautiful day, and I thank you for these people. Lord, please bless them. I ask this in your Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Lord, P.S., if you could throw in a luscious head of hair at some point in my life, that would be epic. And if you don't think the Lord has a sense of humor, come on, look what's going on. All right, here we go. So we can do this the boring way, or we can do this the fun way. How many people want the boring way? Raise your hands. No one? All right, fun way. Everybody stand up. First, put your drinks on the ground. Drinks on the ground. Drinks on the ground. Drinks on the ground. Everybody stand up.
It's a trust exercise.
Everybody stand up. Drinks on the ground. We don't want spilled coffee. All right. All right. Everybody knows this riff. All right. So we're going to do it a little differently. This riff is for God. It's not for rock and roll. All right. So after this, we got to go out into a world that's going to try to attack us. So here we go. Everybody knows? All right, here we go. All right, I've got slime. This is going to be awesome. Before I do, I currently do a lot of commercial real estate, but I'd like Patty, your residential real estate agent. All the residential real estate agents here, stand up for me. If you're a real estate agent doing residential, stand up for me. These people have one of the toughest jobs in the world. We work Saturdays, we work Sundays, so thanks to them. If you can't, I've got commercial flyers here. So my specialty is offices. If you need to buy or lease an office, or office warehouse, you can let me know. If you don't mind, residential agents, can you pass out commercial stuff for me? And I owe you and thank you. Patty is one of the best. We've got a couple members of our team here. If you got to buy or sell a house, please use one of these people. All right, here we go. Boom. Well, you said this worked, Erica. There we go. All right, so real quickly, what's your favorite business word? You can't go wrong. It's your favorite here. So I like good to great. So let's yell out a couple of great business books.
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. I love the EMIT too. What else do we got? Hit me.
The Rockefeller Habits.
Rockefeller Habits. That's a good one.
Proverbs.
Proverbs. Yeah. We'll get there.
21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Love that. The E-Myth. I love that book. There's a book called Lead Like Jesus, which actually, Lead Like Jesus was one of the worst reads I've ever had. Okay, I know that doesn't sound like a great thing, but it was a terrible read. But I got one great thing out of it that made the book so worth it, which we'll talk about in a second. So what if I told you that the greatest book, there we go, the greatest business book in the world is 2,000 years old and is under attack? The single greatest business book in the world, the single greatest book you can follow to help your business is 2,000 years old. I think a lot of us know that, right? All right, so 2,003 years old, it's under attack. And today, we're going to talk about business and the Bible. Okay? The first thing I will say is I'm not worthy to teach this class. I'm not qualified. Okay? I am not a theologian by any means. I don't even know if I spelled theological correctly there. I don't know if someone wants to spell check. I have 4 addictions and ADHD. I have trouble hearing his voice sometimes. It's so hard to hear him sometimes. And sometimes I hear him so clearly. And sometimes my prayers are answered. My wife was sick for several years, and I remember praying on my knees day after day, Lord, just make her feel better. Just make her feel better. And I remember my wife saying, I don't know if you know, I'm just surviving for my daughter. I'm never going to feel great again. Never. But I kept praying day after day, and she actually asked me to stop praying for her. She's like, just stop. It's not, I'm not going to. And my wife is one of the best solid Christians. And my wife is healthier now. She got a kidney transplant. My wife is healthier today than she's ever been a day in her life. Wow. And praise God for that. And she did thank me for praying ceaselessly, because I did. All right. Wrong way. Here we go. She said this was easy. It's easy for everyone except someone with ADHD, maybe. All right. How many of you guys have listened to the great philosopher Wayne and Garth? Right, they're phenomenal, and they always said we're not worthy. And it's funny, I think all of us struggle with our lack of worthiness on a daily basis. I feel that every day. Except when I'm in a listing, then I know I'm really good. Just a joke. All right. But I struggle with that a lot. I feel not worthy a lot. And I think the most awesome thing about the Bible is when Jesus goes to people, they don't feel worthy. The people who feel worthy are the people God doesn't call because they're not right. I love when God went to Mary. She's like, dude, I'm like 14, right? I'm 14 years old. I'm nobody. What are you talking about? I'm 14. All right, I don't know if she said dude, but it's more colorful. Yeah. Moses, the first thing he said is, my brother Aaron is a better speaker than me. So God picked the greatest speakers of the Bible, the single greatest speakers, some of the most influential people, because they didn't feel worthy. And I want you to go into your day, each day, thinking about that. You know, if fishermen can go out and change the world, you can talk to someone about the Bible. It's okay. We're going to be all right. All right. So why don't I feel worthy? I'll just throw it out. I have average Bible knowledge. I have addictions. I have internal battles. I'm confident everywhere else. I've done stand-up comedy. Things don't scare me. Okay? Not really much scares me, but when I talk about the Bible, it still does a little. For the record, it's funny. Anywhere else, I think I come across as confident. People would say arrogant at times. But when I'm talking about the Bible, sometimes I feel like I'm just not worthy of that. And I think we all do. But we shouldn't. All right, so the first business lesson we're going to talk is a really unusual one. I love when Esther was put as the queen. She was put as the queen. She was put in place. She could coast. She had the easiest life in the world. And Mordecai went to Esther and said, hey, I need you. I need you to talk to the king. And first she gave the read like, I'm not worthy of that. He's got to welcome me into his room. There's all this things that has to happen. But what did she say when he came to her? She said, I want you to fast, and I want you to pray. I want people to pray for me, and I want to fast. And then we'll give God time to work a little, and then we'll see what happens. Now, how does that? Why is that a business lesson? Think about all the times people come to you and say, if you don't make this decision by noon tomorrow, it's a no-go for me. Think about all the times you're told, if you don't do things on my timeline, it's not going to happen. And you try to do things on their timeline. When really all you need to do is say, you know what? I'm going to go pray about this for a week. I might even fast about it. And you know what? I'll get back to you. Well, this deal's not going to be there then. Well, then God gave me my answer. Right? I mean, no, seriously. So Gary Hennessy, who is an incredible business person, he's one of the best people I ever worked for. I would go to Gary and say, hey, I've got this $3 million lot. It was $4.5 million. They have to have a decision today. And Gary said, hey, I'm going to pray about it. I'll get back to you in a month. I'm like, it won't be here in a month. And it wasn't in a month at $3.5 million. It was in a month at 2.75. And he still didn't want to do the deal. And I'm like, I got him to 275. He's like, Tim, God got him to 275, Tim. It wasn't you. God got him to 275. But I'm still not going to buy it. And it's like, but you prayed about it. And the price went down. Tim, I just don't feel the strength. And Gary's a multimillionaire. He's doing just fine. He'll probably get by in life. He's retired now. But it's one of the best lessons I could get. And think about how often in our business we feel rushed to make decisions right now. It has to be today. But it doesn't. Take time, pray about it, fast, I'll get back to you. Well, that deal won't be here then. Thanks, you just gave me my answer. All right, to close out the subject real quick, in Ken Blanchard's book, Lead Like Jesus, which again, not my favorite Christian business book I've read. It was good, but I got one line out of it that I use every day. God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. Okay? If he calls you, you can do it. I mean, I'm not going to have an MBA career, but I doubt God's going to call me for that. I don't see myself as a hand or hair model, but the things that God calls me for, he's going to qualify me for. Okay? I went on a mission trip to Africa a few years ago, and I felt like the least qualified person in the world, and it was so much fun, and I learned so much through it, and I think I help people, but I know for sure they help me. All right, so I think Jesus wants us all, no matter what our strengths and weaknesses are. He wants us all. everyone else wants someone else's strengths. Don't we go through life going, gosh, if I could just be more like Shelly in the back. Shelly, you're the best person on the phone I've ever seen. I wish I could be more like her every day on the phone. He lives his faith out loud. I wish I could be more like you. Okay? There are several people in this room that I met and I respect, and I wish I could be more like you. But I can't. And we have to live with that. So what if I told you I have mathematical proof that God gave us all the tools we needed to get by? Would that be cool? Here we go. All right. Let's do this. So one more lesson, and then we're done. But this one takes a little longer. All right, so we're going to talk about the hiring of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to write the Gospels, because they were hired. God picked them to do it. He chose them to write the Gospels, and why did he choose them? All right. First, real quick, thanks to my wife for helping me with this. Kenny Beck taught me a lot of this, and I think, does Kenny still go here? I think he went to Weston for a long time. The disc test, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And real quick, we're going to talk about the disc assessment, the 4 traits of the disc Gospels, and we have a riveting conclusion. Does that sound riveting conclusion? So again, I told you, a little bit cocky sometimes, maybe arrogant, but riveting, I promise. All right, so let's talk about the disc assessment. The disc assessment is something that a lot of us use in business. How many people have used or know about the disc assessment? It's awesome, isn't it? What does the disc assessment have to do with the Bible, you might ask? Funny, it just so happens that's what we're talking about. So there was a gentleman, his name was Marston. Marston was a very accomplished man. He was a lawyer, he was a psychologist, he created the first functional lie detector. Kind of cool. And he created Wonder Woman, for you comic book fans. So I want you to think about Wonder Woman. What was her weapon? The lasso of truth. He was fascinated with the truth. It absolutely fascinated him. Now, he had some strange hobbies that we won't talk about, but he created this amazing thing for business, and that's the disc profile. I survive, and people say, why is your business successful? They ask me, why is my business successful? I pray a lot. I have a great woman in my life. I'm blessed. But it's also because people go, can you read people? I can't read people, but I can read their patterns. And if I can read someone's patterns, I can tell you more about them in a minute and a half than most people can in a week. All right, so we're going to need some volunteers real quickly, and there's fabulous prizes if you volunteer, just FYI. All right, those 2 seats right there I'm going to need, so can you gentlemen get up real quick? I apologize, because that's my display. All right, basically, we're going to talk about Vegas. All right, so I want you to picture 4 people sitting in a room. They're all just sitting there, and one person goes, we're going to Vegas. He has no idea, or she has no idea how they're getting there. You know what he knows for sure, though? He's going to Vegas. He hasn't made any plans. He doesn't know anything, but he knows for sure at the end of the day, he'll be in Vegas. That's the first guy. He's about, what are we going to do? I'm going to Vegas. All right? How many, if you were that personality profile, raise your hand. Like, you don't know how you're going to get there. Young lady, all right, I want you to come sit in the driver's seat right here. But you get first pick of leadership books. So take these leadership books with you over there, and you pick whichever one you want. All right. So they know for sure they're going to Vegas. That's the driver. The second person's about who are we going to do it with? They're going to sit in the front seat. They're going to call shotgun because they're very vocal. All right. They're going to talk to everybody. When you get to Vegas, they already know 4 people in town. They've already set up a dinner for everybody that night. All right? All right? They're going to chat the whole way there. They're going to keep everybody entertained. They're going to know the jokes. All right, so raise your hand if you're an I. All right, Patty. All right, you get the next business book. You got to pick one and then pass it by. So you're going to sit in the passenger seat because that's where the I would sit. All right. The third person on the trip to Vegas is the person that's like, did we tell people we're going to Vegas? Does my wife know I'm going to Vegas? Does my husband know I'm going to Vegas? Did we put air in the tires? Have we even planned? Do we even have a room when we get there? All right. They're the team mom. They're the ones who is going to look out for everybody. They're going to make sure everybody's safe. They're going to sit behind the driver. Do you know why they're going to sit behind the driver? Because they've looked into it. And do you know what the safest seat in the car is? In a car wreck? The one right behind the driver. But you don't have a solid team without one of these people. I employ more of these people than any others because they look out for everybody. They're amazing. All right? They're the people that are going to be the team moms, team dads. They're the ones who are going to volunteer and do the work that other people aren't going to do. And they're just the absolute anchor of the team. All right, so raise your hand. I know. Raise your hand if you're that person. Young man right there. Come on, let's go. All right, so we've got the S, and he's going to look out for everybody on the right there. All right, the last person's a C. So the S is about why are we doing it. First person, what are we doing? We're going to Vegas. Second person, who are we doing it with? Third person, why are we doing this? Now the fourth person is how are we doing it? All right, hey look, on the way to Vegas, I've got on my iPhone, I've already got rooms booked for us at the Palace. I got us the best rate because I got online. Hey, there's free cocktails. I've already set us up for free short cocktails at so-and-so. They are the person with the plan. When you get there, they've got you set up. Raise your hand if you're that person. I'm making you do this. She's pointing to you. Come on, over here. Over here, you get a book. All right. So, can we go to Vegas without all four of those personalities? You know you can. It's just not going to be nearly as much fun. Like, I've gone and done a lot of crazy things without the S. I end up in the hospital. Good story, but I still end up in the hospital because the S is a person like, Tim, do you really think this is a good idea? It's a fantastic idea. Tim, here's why it's not a good idea. So, if you go to Vegas without the C, your trip's not going to be as good. You're not going to probably get to Vegas at all without the person saying, hey, let's go to Vegas. And it's not going to be nearly as fun without the I. So every person in that car makes the trip better. All right? All right. If you guys want to stay there, you can. If you want to go back to your chairs, you can. Thank you so much for being volunteers. Thank you for our volunteers. You're like, Tim, how does that apply to the Bible? That has nothing to do with the Bible. You get to keep the book. What if I told you that each book of the Bible is written by a different disc profile? What if I told you that God picks someone of each of our strengths so we know we can help? That's pretty cool. All right, so again, dominance is the what, influence is the who, steadiness is the why, and C is the how. All right, so again, each gospel is written by a different personality profile. All right, so again, I'm not a theologian. I'm not an expert on disc profile. I know it pretty well. This is just for fun and entertainment. I'm not saying I'm exactly right about which disc I am, by the way. But I'm not saying it, but I am. All right, here we go. All right, so just a tip before we get going. Mark was written a lot by Peter. So Peter was kind of the driving force behind Mark. Peter and Mark were tight. All right, so dominance is what, influence is who, steadiness is why, compliance is how. Here we go. All right, there's a test. Here we go. So the D personality type tends to be direct, decisive, sometimes described as dominant. Okay? They would prefer to lead rather than follow and tend towards leadership and management positions. They tend to have high self-confidence and they're risk takers and problem solvers, which enables others to look to them for decisions and direction. They tend to overstep authority. Can you see that a little? Is that a fair assessment, Heath, of me? Tend to overstep authority maybe a little? At times, they can be argumentative and not listen. I might agree. They tend to dislike repetition and routine and may ignore the details and minutiae of a situation. Someone will say, here's what we're doing, but I didn't give you all the details yet. Yeah, I got it now. All right. The D is highly motivated by new challenges, and they're setting and achieving goals at all times. Goal, 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 goal. All right. So, the dominance profile. Which book did they write? The D. What book? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. What book did the D write?
Matthew.
Not a bad guess. And you could argue that. And actually, I've had that argued. But which book was written first? Mark was the first book written. Wouldn't the D be the first to the finish line? All right, Peter. I just told you, Peter helped write Mark, so I like Matthew. And you and I can go back and forth on that a lot. But think about Mark, written by Peter. Who chopped off an ear? Peter. He went and chopped off somebody's ear, like defending the Lord. And the Lord's like, look, just relax just a little bit. All right, so the authorship's probably Peter, Mark is probably written by a D. The D will usually move to a leadership position. He was one of the big three. So Peter was one of the big three. He was the rock of the church. I say all the time that Jesus picked. Who did Jesus pick to look after his mom? John. Who did he pick to look after his church? Peter. Peter's a D. Would you want Peter looking after your mom?
No.
Absolutely not. That would be a terrible decision. All right, but would you want him out there going forward for your church making mistakes? Yeah. Probably. Peter was a man of action who made a lot of mistakes. And then from the Bible, then the disciple whom Jesus loved. And by the way, I love that John called himself the apostle that Jesus loved the most. That just cracks me up. Like, I don't know for the record, God loves me the most. All right. It is the Lord. As soon as Simon heard him say, it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him and jumped into the water. That's a deal. All right? Peter was the first to enter the tomb. Do you remember, and one of my favorite stories is when John and Peter race to the tomb, right? And John gets there, but who goes in first? Peter. I love that. Peter and Paul struggled for control of key issues. All right, so we know for sure that God had something in mind for Peter. And I think, how many people can disagree with me that Peter was probably a D? God chose to use Peter. He was absolutely a D. Generally considered the earliest gospel. It's the shortest gospel. It also has the most miracles mentioned. Okay, because a D would be all about action, right? Hey, show me another miracle. Hey, where's the next one? That's just how D's are going to think. There's no mention of Jesus' birth. He just cuts straight to, hey, Jesus is out doing the work. All right? And the use of the word immediately. Go back and read the Bible and see how many times in the book of Mark the word immediately or something like that is used. It's kind of cool. And it's also the shortest overview of Jesus' death. So that is the book of Mark. All right? And again, I don't disagree with Matthew. You and I can talk after.
Well, it was designed for the Jews, so it had to be that.
Right, absolutely. All right, here we go. All right, so influence. Remember, the eye is the influencer. The eye is not afraid to be the center of attention. They're enthusiastic, optimistic, talkative, persuasive, impulsive, and emotional. This personality type will trust others naturally. They enjoy other people, and they function best working in teams. The I personality type is typically not good with details. They are more concerned with people and popularity than with tangible results in organizations. It is also possible they're not the greatest of listeners. All right, by the way, I'm a DI, so two together. That's terrible. All right, and may give impressions of wanting to speak instead of truly listening. They want to be around others and desire environments that are positive and even fun. And they want to be social at work and in the world. Okay? So they want to be out there. They want to be talking. I'm going to give you a hint on this one. All right? So he invited Jesus to a party the first time he met him. The book of Matthew. There we go. The first time he met Jesus, he's like, hey, dude, I'm having a party at my house. I mean, yeah, there's going to be sinners and other, tax collectors there, but come on over to my house. He was a tax collector. He would have been literate in Aramaic and Greek. So he was a very literate person. As Jesus went out from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth and said, follow me. And Jesus got up and followed him. And I would do that. I love that about us. Jesus was invited to a dinner at Matthew's house the first time he met him. Family is also very important. I think Matthew's the one who gives a really big genealogy. I'm definitely not for us, but I think I'm right there. The second chapter speaks to the Magi of wise men in a visit. Jesus also debated with the devil in the wilderness in this one, and I would be all about conversation. All right, so Jesus definitely used an eye, or God definitely used an eye here, and I love that. All right, also the most words in red, book of Matthew. Jesus was talking. That would be important to him. Okay? Matthew is also the second longest book in the Bible. Only Luke is longer. Or second longest book of the gospel, sorry. All right, because we always got Proverbs, not Proverbs, but Psalms is the longest, right? Yeah. All right, steady. So the steady personality type is known for being steady, stable, and predictable. They're even-tempered, friendly, sympathetic to others, and very generous with the people they love. Very generous. The S is understanding and listens. They prefer close personal relationships. And the S is very open with loved ones, but can also be possessive at times. Okay? The S is reliable and dependable. They are patient and good listeners. S strive for stability. Which book was written by an S? Luke. Again, not a bad guess. These are the two that always go back and forth. I have a lot of people say Luke. To me, it's John. The reason it is John, in my opinion, my humble opinion, again, I could be wrong. Sorry, one too many. There we go. John was the last book completed. John waited till the other people, the other writers of the Gospels died, because he didn't want them to feel bad that he felt he needed to add more. John would have wanted to weigh the options before going forward to tell the greatest story ever told. He was very possessive of Jesus. Like, hey, I get to sit at your right hand, right? And again, he also called himself, hey, I'm the one Jesus loves the most. Just for the record, in case you're wondering, it's me. He loves me the most. He was very possessive of his position. John placed importance on including others and including things that had been left out in the previous book. Okay? He did the reinstatement of Peter, the raising of Lazarus, the miraculous catch of fish. All of those were things that weren't in the other Gospels. He felt he needed to add them. And honestly, he never would have written it if he felt the others were complete. He didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. He just said, look, there's more to tell. I love that. So, John was the first to the tomb, but Peter entered first. Both were running, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He went in and looked over in the strips of linen, but did not go in. Then Simon Peter came along behind him and went straight to the tomb. Quick side note, by the way. I love that John mentions 3 times, I beat Peter to the tomb. I mean, we think of these guys as like perfect people, but John's like, hey, Peter and I reached the tomb. For the record, I was first. I beat him there. And Peter went into the tomb, but for the record, I was there first. And then he goes, and then Peter and the apostle that got there first went into the tomb. So about the only time John doesn't refer to himself as the apostle Jesus loved the most is when he said, hey, I went in the tomb first. I beat Peter there first. I beat him, for the record. I beat Peter. So I love that they were so competitive. I absolutely love that. And it just shows that God wants to use our imperfections. But John was very, very important in Jesus' world, and he was steady. Okay, so the last book is Compliance. The C is the most accurate, precise, detail-oriented, and conscientious. They think analytically and systematically, and they make decisions carefully with plenty of research and information to back it up. This is my wife. We are doing okay financially because of my wife. Not because of my ability to sell, but because before we go into any decision, she breaks it down for me. We own a commercial building, and before I bought the commercial building, I went to my wife and said, here's my business plan. And she goes, hey, you need to tune it up, you need to fix this, you need to fix that. So I brought it back to her, and she goes, ooh, almost there. You need to tune this up and tune that up. And so then I took my business plan and gave it to the banker. So the guy who's going to loan me like $600,000, I give it to the banker. The banker's like, yeah, we're good. Because my wife had already proofread it, made sure it was perfect. And by the time it got to him, what could he say? It was ready to go. Now, if I had just put it together as a D, he would have beat it to death. All right. They take the most pride in doing work accurately. Okay? And they're excellent people to analyze and research and test information. The C is motivated by information and logic. The C feels most safe with the procedures and routine. We already know it's the book of Luke. Here's why I'll say this. What did Luke do as a profession? Doctor. He was. Would you want an I operating on you as a doctor, or a D? I would. Maybe an S. But a D with a lot of C in them, potentially. But the C is who you want as your doctor. They're the most logical. Luke was a Greek physician, so accuracy was important to him. He studied at the feet of noted scholars in the New Testament, like Paul. Based on his accurate description of islands, towns, and cities, Luke is generally considered the best historian of the Gospels. So when they make movies from the Gospels, they go to Luke a lot. Okay? Words used by noted historians to describe Luke's work: accurate, trustworthy, conformity to history, and competence. Luke presents the genealogy of Jesus. The book of Luke is the longest gospel. Of course it would be. He's got to get you all the details. To me, the most interesting thing about Luke is Luke probably met with Mary and said, hey, tell me stuff. Tell me about the birth. Because he gives the most accurate report from the birth. So Luke would want all the details. So every gospel was written by someone with a different disc profile. Before disc profile was ever invented, of course. But it's just another way of God showing each of us that He's got something in mind for you. And when you're not happy with the gifts He gave you, He gave them to you for a reason. Okay? I still don't understand the bald thing, but for some reason it was really important that God made me bald at 22 years old. All right? So God gave us all our tools for a reason. And that's what we need to remember. When we feel not worthy, when we feel not ready to go, God gave us each of the tools we have for a reason. By the way, Dan Pastorini was the speaker, and I was just the backup speaker, and I'm like, God, I would much rather hear Dan Pastorini, for the record. All right? I love our speaker last month. He was incredible. He was a true hero. But I know I'm here for a reason today, and I know you guys are here too. So when someone comes to you with a tough decision, do you make that decision right now? No, you pray about it. How often do we forget as Christian business people to do that? Let's be honest. How often do we doubt we have the abilities to do what we need to do? Every day. All right? But God used imperfect men in perfect ways. And I love that. All right. So the Gospels were completed in the order you think they would be. Peter was first, Matthew was second, Luke was third, and finally the very considerate and tentative John wrote his Gospel last, which I love. All right. The Lord inspired or hired the authors of the Gospel to communicate with each of us in a different disc profile. So, you guys have known me for a few minutes. You would think I would love the book of Mark. Absolutely love it. You're usually attracted to your opposite. I love the book of Luke. I love the details in there, and I love the things about it. And I've talked to detail people, they're like, we love the book of Mark. And you're attracted to your opposite sometimes with gospel, too. You might be attracted to your gospel. I don't know. Matthew might be your favorite book. But a lot of times you'll find yourself attracted to a different gospel. And then you'll find yourself in a different gospel in a different day for a different reason. It's pretty powerful when you think about it. All right. We're made like this for a reason. God made you exactly as he needed you. Quick business lesson, and I love this. All right, so I'm going to give you tips. If I can give you a business tip to make you more money today, you guys in?
Go for it.
Okay, so when I show up at someone's house, and I say, hey, would you like to go through the paperwork? And they go, no, let's just sign it. What are they? They're a D, right? If they want to talk to me about a lot of things before we get started signing, they're not. If they have their worries and really want to talk to me about, hey, my AC's 4 years old, I can't believe it's 4 years old already, and they're really worried about the AC, they're an S. If I show up and they printed off the paperwork in advance and they signed everything, they're a C. All right, so there's ways that you can see it, and I know when I'm sitting down with an S, I have to let them express their concerns, which is a D that's really hard for me. Okay. But I have to do that. All right? So let's talk about some funny ones real quick. DIs. So that's general. That's just a D that's really outgoing, right? There's the SCs. Those two really run together. But the ones that are really funny are DSs. Like, I'm going to go do something. Oh, boy, I better not. Hey, we're going to go buy a new policy in a car. No, we're not. DSs are tough. But DSs also get a lot done in this world. ISs are really funny. The outgoing people who also, hey, I want to go talk to some people. No, I don't. I really want to think it through before I do what I say. So the ISs, I will hire an IS all day long. They really are fantastic salespeople. But the DCs are really, really funny. I'm going to go do something. Oh, no, I'm going to think about it first. So look for those tendencies in people. If you look at it, I told you, I can't read people, but I can read their tendencies. And people ask, like, you're a pretty effective salesperson. Why are you an effective salesperson? When I show up at a house, I can tell you who's in the room. If the pack is printed out already, I know I have a C. If they have a list of questions for me before they get started, I know I have an S. If they don't care about anything, I know I have a D. All right? And if I have a D in the room with me, oh, it's a beautiful thing. Hey, let's just go ahead and sign all the paperwork. That sounds fantastic. So, Patty, don't you love to show up with D's?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Let's just roll. All right. And you're up, young lady. All right. Thank you guys so much for having me. If you have questions after, let me know. Okay, I'll stay here after. But it's such an honor to be here. I really hope you guys get Dan Pastrana next month because I'd really love to see him.